Hi, people. So today I wanted to talk to you guys about girl code. And what that means is there's been, well, for me, from what I've noticed, there has been some disagreement on what it is and who is actually following it versus who's not. Um, there is a girl code, and it's not something that was handed down to each of us. It was something that, like, you only know once you break it. Um, the thing about it is it's supposed to be the foundation of a sisterhood, and there's also some question about whether or not a sisterhood exists, and if it does, if it's a good thing. So my personal response is um, girl code can be helpful, and the reason I say that is because if used correctly, it could be something that helps us to all come together and present what femininity is supposed to be. So what happens is we get subgroups, and those subgroups decide to change certain rules. Everything that has a theory and practice usually has things that people and groups that branch off because of a specific ideology that they disagree with. So I'm going to present my version of it, what I think would be helpful. And I do think that there is a sisterhood, but it's not being enforced. And also, there are a lot of people that only use it when they can think of a negative way to use it. They don't really use it for positive reasons. And so my hope is that going forward we can change that, because a lot of the things that I see nowadays are coming about because of the sisterhood being used inappropriately and unhelpfully. So first thing, why is it needed? Well, as women, we have experiences that men don't understand, they don't feel, they don't even notice because, sorry, they don't notice it because they're too busy doing stuff that has to do with masculinity and men and the brotherhood. It's a fallacy, and it's delusional to think that they do, or even to expect and want them to notice everything that we do. Because if that's the case, then that means that they're not doing anything in life and they're sitting around watching us. That's not helpful. They have a job, and so do we. So it's the same thing as if when I meet groups of women who just sit around and man watch. I understand wanting a significant other and putting in the work to get one, but at the same time, you still have to keep up with the things that you are supposed to be doing. Otherwise, when you get them, are you going to know what to do? It's normal to. Do you really want a guy to be involved in every single aspect of your life? There are certain things that I feel more comfortable talking to other women about. It's normal to want a man around, but not 24/7. There has to be some type of boundary. So I think it would be a much more comfortable life if we were all honest. And sometimes you can't do that with men. Not saying to lie to them, but saying that they don't have to know everything, they don't want to know everything, and they shouldn't know everything. That a mature person would be able to tell that, yes, you tell them the things that are important. That does not include lying. We would then, if we develop a girl code, we would have a reason and a way that's already laid out for correction, redirection, and excommunication. Without one, the negative interactions that we have just seem petty. It would give a reason to why I'm cutting this woman off. It would give a reason to why I'm telling this woman that what she's doing is not helpful to herself or women as a whole. I hate the, well, I didn't know defense. I'm not blaming the person that uses it, because a lot of times it is true. They might not have known. But if there is a girl code in place, then we can tell them, we can promote it, and then that way it cuts that defense off. There are a lot of women who didn't do what they were supposed to do by teaching others what they should know to be a woman. So this way, we make up for that. We're not focusing on the past, on what didn't happen. We go forward and we just make sure that it's happened now, and we start fresh. Third, it's not going to be used to determine or define femininity. That's something that has to happen first. And then the girl code would ensure that everybody has a way to and understands the benefits of sticking to those assigned roles. We can include a lot of things into femininity because, in my opinion, femininity is basically about understanding that you can't do everything on this planet. The thing I don't like about feminism is it says that, oh, I can do anything a man can do. No, I cannot, and I don't want to. A lot of stuff that men do, I don't want to do, and I feel lucky that I'm not required or expected to do certain things. So, I really wish they had asked me before they went out with that movement, but okay. I've gotten called lazy. I've gotten called so many insults because I do not want to do everything that I see the men in my family doing or being expected to do. That's just the truth. There needs to be an effective way to handle dissent. So once a woman breaks that code, we can put in place remediation. Either she can correct the bad behavior or she can just be gone. She can sign away her rights. Right now, we have a lot of women who are signing away their rights to the girl code and femininity, but that is due to the negative experiences that I hope to be able to mitigate. I do not enjoy seeing women argue back and forth with one another or with men. It's not a fun thing. I want us to be able to be calm and to be relaxed and happy. And that can't happen when we have certain people doing certain behaviors. In the girl code, I think it's important that we know that we would be the expert on many different types of women. I do not believe in a world in which women would be a monolith. That's boring. And men aren't going to like that either. I can tell you right now, if everything was exactly the same, it would get boring. People have, preferences and experiences for a reason. With so many DNA combinations, everybody's not going to look the same. With so many different experiences available to us on this huge planet, turning every single day, everybody's not going to think the same. They're not going to behave the same. They're not going to want the same. We can still have that. It's just that if we talk to one another first because we've made each other feel comfortable to do so according to the code, then life would be a lot easier, in my opinion. We are the experts on what it is to live every single day as a woman. Since birth, I've known that I have the gender of female. I have never been anything else. I can never be anything else. So if I can live all of these years, which I'm not saying how many, as being a woman, if I should be able to master anything, it should be that. That's the thing I have the most experience of. Even my race, if I'm over the phone and somebody does not see me specifically, that's not necessarily, whatever happens on that phone call is not being judged by my race. Same thing as being a woman, but I'm experiencing it as a woman. So it's the thing that I am the most in my entire existence. So I think that we should be able to be an expert. And I would like to be able to present that to the world. So, from listening and analyzing all of the hurt feelings and all of the negative actions that have been happening lately, I propose the following. And I do want to just reiterate that it does allow for different personality types, different interests, skills, abilities. I am never going to take that away from people because we can still be individuals. It's just the basic bottom line, the foundation of being a woman. Things you should never do to another woman, things you should never allow another woman to present as feminine. So number one, and hear me out, okay? Because at the end of all of this, these 5 things that I think that we need are going to go in order. And if we have number 5, we have 1 through 4. And just hear me out. So 1, we share. We open up to one another. We talk to one another open and honestly, because honesty helps to determine things like this. If you're not being forthcoming, if you're not being completely honest about the event in question, we don't get to learn. Honesty helps us learn. If somebody is telling you the truth about what happened or what they did or why they did something, then we would be able to use that information and compile it to know, okay, this is a real thing, or either, well, this is a thing, but it's rare. And so whenever we see it, we also learn, well, these are the warning signs, these are the steps. Everything that we know about humanity, we had to learn by somebody watching and finding out the truth, trial and error. And being a woman is no different. We have a lot of people who do women's studies. I could just take what they have to say, but being a black woman is a little bit different. I live it every day. I know the difference. And so therefore, I take it with a grain of salt because it doesn't always add up to the same experience. And this may not either, but this is just my idea. So if you do something that causes another woman to not want to share, to not want to be open, then that's something that's going to need to have some consequences. If you take information and use it for evil, if you take information and put it in the hands of a person who uses it for evil, these are things that prevent us from being able to be open and honest and share with one another. So those are the type of things that we would need to correct. I don't want us to have a reason to fear other black women. And that's one of the telltale signs, is when you start to hide things, when you keep things inside. It's never helpful for you to bottle things up and keep it to yourself. So it's going to come out anyway. And I'd rather women be empowered enough to share it on their own without it having to be pulled out of them or just noticed. Number 2, we understand. We understand one another. We remember what it's like in our own experiences. We pay attention and we notice the differences in the experiences that we have and understand that that's not the same as everybody else. There are going to be things that differ between us, which gives that person a different experience of something. There are going to be times where there is a legitimate reason to compete. There are going to be times where one person is better at something than another person, and that is just an example of normal life reasons why we might have different experiences of the same event. So with that being said, we listen to the woman while she's sharing. She's open and honest, and then we understand. We try to see her point of view. We all have a shared goal. And what that is to get to the end of life. We should want things like to leave a positive mark on humanity, on the planet, things like that. But there are a lot of barriers that are in the way of us being able to do that. So we have to be understanding. That's part of our role, is to pay attention, to learn, to listen. But what good is all of that if you don't understand what you're hearing or what you're seeing? We will, however, include being logical and reasonable. Understanding also includes being able to call BS on some of the things that some women do. If there is a woman who is purposely dragging down another one with ill intent, there is going to, like, if that person is still trapped in their evil mind state, they could come up with some reason that we all happen to know is not true, because we also wake up every day and live life as a woman. So therefore, understanding is going to be able to say, no, that's not true. You did that on purpose and you need to not. Number 3, we forgive. There are times where we are trapped in a damaged state. Lots of things happen. Sometimes we just can't figure out the right answer in time. It's life. No one is perfect. So if there is a woman who is making actual steps to change, they're making amends, making the people that they've harmed whole, we let them go through that process. We give them the opportunity to make a change. I don't want a woman who's done one thing in their life or did something out of ignorance to have to suffer forever. Life has consequences, but those consequences don't follow you until your death naturally. I believe in natural consequences. So let's say you get another woman fired from her job because you guys had an argument or something. The natural consequence of that would be you losing your income as well, or you being required to genuinely find a replacement for her income. It does not include you being required to pay her half of your income until you die. That's crazy. So we're going to be reasonable. And forgiveness does allow for making amends, making a second start, but it does not say be a doormat. It does not mean that if this is a person that is just hell bent on doing the wrong thing all of the time and using forgiveness to hurt the person who has forgiven, that is not something that would be tolerated. There are times where, as the less physical gender, we might be forced or coerced into situations. If there is a woman who is lying about this, then that reduces the impact of the women who are actually forced or coerced into something. So that is something that where we would call BS. So it's important that we understand that the things that we do, in fact, have an impact on one another. Should we always be judged as one big group? No, we shouldn't. But in life, there are times where people walk away and say, better safe than sorry. And we have to understand that, which means that if we are going to be the gatekeepers of our own gender, we have to be able and willing to identify and correct the problems. Number 4, we encourage. And so what that means is, after all of the sharing, after all of the understanding, the forgiveness, we now have to build this woman back up. Otherwise, like, how exactly can she contribute to anything, to womanhood, to society, to anything? So we don't want a lot of damaged souls running around, because that's when we get the problems that we are having currently. As adults, we have to be mature enough to genuinely let go of past negativity, and that is hard. It's easier said than done. Sometimes you need help from outside of yourself, but to be used sparingly, not something that you just take for granted and run it into the ground. So what I'm saying is that encouraging one another, uplifting one another. To correct behaviors, there are different components to that. One of which is reinforcement. And what that means is to strengthen. So if you see a woman who is doing something that's a positive thing, she's starting a business, she's taking care of her kids, she's coaching a child in a neighborhood who has the same talent or skill as her, right? We need to uplift that. We need to encourage that. Reinforcement. Reinforcement makes behaviors more likely to happen going forward. It's a reward system. It should be intrinsic, but after that intrinsic reward system, what's wrong with having one that's extrinsic, where we see something good and it warms our heart and we speak on it? If we can speak on the negative, we can speak on the positive. It also, if women are doing positive things and they're getting the reinforcement and attention from that way, there's a such thing as competing behaviors. Some things you cannot physically possibly do at the same time. So a lot of the positive things that we have to do, the added bonus is that you can't physically do something negative at the same time. Mentally, sometimes it's hard to split your brain in that manner, where you have this positive life over here and this negative one over here. Even if you're able to achieve it, it doesn't really last very long, because it's very hard on your psyche as well as your physical body. So if we're reinforcing and we're offering assistance to that, encouragement also means putting your resources where your mouth is. You see a woman, she's trying to start a business, but she needs investors, she needs volunteers. Why not do that? if you are starting a business and you have people that are volunteering, investing, promoting, why not give them an incentive to do so? Take the burden off of one another. There are lots of relationships that are damaged because the woman is overworked. We as women could help that woman, and then that way she can be a better partner in that relationship, thereby reinforcing her to stay within that union. And then we might even listen. I think I just found the answer to how to stop side chicks. I'm a genius. No, I'm just kidding. But the point is to use prevention. There are times where I believe some women get into negative situations out of boredom, out of not having anything else available to them. They literally felt like that was their last option, that was the only thing that was available to them, that there was nothing wrong with what they were doing because nobody ever told them. Everybody just let them do whatever. I do think that gatekeeping is a great support for many of the most successful institutions. So if we like to think of Black women as a successful institution, it's going to involve some gatekeeping. Unfortunate, but true and necessary. Encouragement also includes correction that has love in it. Why would I listen to somebody who says that they're correcting me, but it sounds like they're just breaking me down? I'm not receiving that as love. You now sound like an enemy, and what are we supposed to do to someone who's a threat? So I'm not saying that we have to sugarcoat everything, because we are in fact adults, and sometimes people need to learn how to accept the truth. But what I am saying is that even when you're blunt and shooting from the hip, it still should be a way to tell that this is done out of love and concern. Otherwise, why am I listening to you? We as Black women have had a lot of threats to the institution that is Black women from many different sources. So self-preservation tells us that we need to tune those out. We need to get away from those. We need to prevent those, and definitely not follow any of that advice. So you have to understand that when you're talking with another Black woman. If a woman is being redirected, it's going to be done with respect to her skills, her abilities, and her knowledge. What that means is you have a woman who's doing a negative behavior. We make suggestions for something that would be more positive, that would achieve either the same or a better goal. Why would I follow advice of something that I don't feel capable of doing? Why would I follow advice of something that I know that I'm physically incapable of doing, or mentally at that moment incapable of doing? That's another reason why sometimes things go in one ear and out of the other. It's because they aren't able to do it. So we're going to take that into respect if we are redirecting a woman to another set of actions. And finally, excommunicated would be used sparingly, because think about what happens when we excommunicate a person. If you kick a person out of something, they're going to have to find someplace else to get resources and support. We don't get a say-so in what that new place is going to be. And they do still take with them the knowledge from everything before they were excommunicated. So after giving the person a chance for correction, for redirection, and they are just unwilling to do anything different, we are going to have to cut people off, because that's part of our self-preservation. I would never tell anybody that you have to keep putting up with something that's damaging or hurtful to you. No one should have to put up with that. And that also reduces the number of good women that we have available as well. So excommunication should be used sparingly. It should be used for the most egregious of offenses, and it should be final. The reason is because, for the same reason when somebody gets kicked out of a house and you change the locks, that's why. There are going to be changes and things that we now learned from the person that we had to excommunicate, because we get to take knowledge away as well. So with that being said, things might be a little bit different after that. They don't get to know. That's part of it. And it's supposed to make them think before they engage in certain behaviors. Now, we may differ on which behaviors deserve that and what doesn't. But at the end of the day, anything that would be hurtful to women as a whole, meaning we wouldn't be able to be feminine and carry out what we were placed here to do, that's a damage, and that has to be cut off. Number 5, last but not least, we keep within reason. So what that means is that we hold to appropriate values and belief systems. If things need to change, it is something that is for a valid reason, not because of somebody's whim. We make decisions and we embody qualities that mean what the message is that we want to put out. We promote positivity. We mean something to one another. We don't threaten. We don't attack. We speak and we follow through. No unnecessary harm. So, I hope this does not seem like I'm trying to force or set up specific groupings, but hopefully it would enhance them. So like I talked about earlier, in womanhood we do get certain groupings, and these are the friendship groups, the people that you have something in common with, the people you like interacting with, that you talk to regularly, right? Those would be hopefully strengthened by this code, because then you would know that every other woman in the group understands and is willing to abide by it. But what it does do is so that the people who find themselves not wanting to or not accepted into any specific grouping, that they still don't feel so alone to where they start to engage in inappropriate behaviors or actions. That's still a liability. I think that this would be one way for us to take responsibility for the things that have happened, and also to take matters in our own hands and be empowered moving forward. We don't have to stay in the past. If we don't want to engage in a conversation about the past, we won't. But what we will do is make a change going forward that we can be proud of. Notice how I said we. If we don't want others to define us, we have to do it ourselves. I know there's a quote. I heard that somewhere, but I didn't look it up for this. So y'all can do that yourselves. Okay? But anyway, thanks for listening. And as always, feedback is welcomed as long as it's respectful and relevant. Bye.